So I've been recently thinking a lot about how to support my clients, especially the ones who are entrepreneurs. So I was recently thinking about midlife crisis. No idea why, not like I'm anywhere near a midlife crisis, but I Googled midlife crisis and top tips of handling a midlife crisis. And I was really intrigued with what Wikipedia gave back to me about how to handle a midlife crisis and how informative that was for ways to be successful as an entrepreneur. So I wanted to share with you some of the ideas and a little bit about how maybe focusing on our life purpose really will help us be more successful as entrepreneurs. So when I Googled top tips for handling midlife crisis, and of course I was totally doing this because I was thinking about my coaching clients, not about my own life, what Wikipedia brought back to me was, number one, do not turn towards drugs and alcohol. So top tip for entrepreneurs, do not turn towards drugs and alcohol. But more importantly, one of the most important things that it said was to really focus on what our passion and our purpose is for our midlife crisis. And I thought about how, as an executive coach, my number one job for my clients is to have them experience life as better, easier, even ecstatic in some cases. And how over and over again, the one thing that really helps get people there is having them experience and identify the deeper meaning of their life and of their work. So I want to talk a little bit with you today about how we might do that together and walk you through a few steps of doing that yourself. So it's interesting if you think about the gift of something like a midlife crisis, or really any crisis, because there's two ways really of addressing a crisis, right? If something comes into your life that feels really, really hard, you can either ignore it or try to numb yourself from it, right? You know, we can pull out the bottle of wine, overshop, Netflix binge, do all the things we can do to really kind of wall ourselves off from dealing with a crisis. Or we can get really, really present. We can get more conscious than we've ever been in our lives and start to look at and understand why. Like, why is this happening? And what is the true purpose of my life on this planet? And so I think that's so apropos when we think about our own careers. And whether we're at the beginning, the middle, or the end of our career as an entrepreneur, or really anything, I think figuring out what our passion and our purpose is will help us, right? If you're at the very beginning and you're just starting something, we know how hard it is to get that first pipeline going, right? To get your first clients. And if you are not clear, what is my purpose? Why am I doing this? There's going to be a lot of quit in you because it's just hard. There's no two ways about it. The momentum that you have to build in the early stages is not for the faint of heart. But if you are clear and it's up on your wall, this is why I'm doing it, that will help you maintain your momentum when it just feels like, why don't I just go get a job, right? And in the middle of your career, especially as an entrepreneur, when you're generating a lot yourself, being clear, this is what I'm up to, this is my calling, this is why this is what I'm doing right now, will help you in the messy middle, right? There's a reason that midlife is called a crisis, right? It's the only part of our life that gets a bad rap like that because the middle is messy. It's when we get bored. It's when we forget why we were doing this anyway. It's why we buy Lamborghinis and have affairs, right? It's why we quit as an entrepreneur because we think, why did I do this again? This is hard. But if we remember our purpose, our meaning, our calling, then we can stick it out because let me tell you, getting through that middle part, just staying at it, will often have us be the one that wins because so many people quit. And then even at the end of your career, having that purpose, figuring out what's my legacy? Like, why am I hanging in here? What's the impact I want to leave in this world? Well, that's really important, right? So I want to just give you an example for me of why this has been important and how I've experienced this in my own career. So now this iteration of my career is I'm an executive coach, and I support women to start and grow ventures and stay sane. I often say I support women to go big and stay sane, to not compromise themselves. And I do that both through private coaching, one-on-one coaching, but I also build communities of women to do it together, and I embody it myself. So that's one of the tenets of my own purpose. So I will do that myself. I will go big and I will stay sane. So my son and I learned how to surf recently, a couple years ago, and we went out one morning to go surfing, and we usually surf really tiny waves, like 1 to 3 foot waves, and we went out and they were bigger, and it was cold out. We got out of the car and I was thinking, there's no way we're going to surf these. They're like twice as big as what we normally surf. My son is 10 years old, and he was like, Mom, what are you thinking? And I was like, well, what are you thinking? And he said, I think we should go for it. And I was thinking, damn. But because my purpose is to embody going big, I thought, I want to model this for him. So I said, all right, let's do it. So we suited up into our wetsuits. Now, let me tell you, he's on this little tiny wafer of a shortboard, and I'm on this mammoth 9-foot longboard. So he jumps in and paddles out and duck dives through the waves like no biggie. I get out there on my big ass longboard and I start paddling, and these, they're not massive, but to me they're massive. Waves start coming through, 5-foot waves start coming through, and they're just flipping my board over, and I'm like, oh! And I get back on my board and I start paddling again, and I'm flipping over on my board so I can let the waves wash over me. And I look behind me thinking, all right, I got this. And I'm like 4 feet from the shore. And I think, what is the point of this? Why am I doing this? And then I remember, because it's my purpose. My purpose is to go big. My purpose is not to give up. It's not to quit. And so I keep at it through tears. I cry. Thank goodness I'm soaking wet all the way past the break. And I tell you that story because literal or figurative waves are going to wash us back towards shore when we're trying to get out past the break. And it will be our purpose that keeps us going. And so that's why it's critical for us to get clear on what that purpose is. But there's one other reason that I think it's really important for us to know our purpose and our passion. And it's because it's what distinguishes us, right? It's what distinguishes us from our competition. Now, I'm an executive coach. There are thousands of us out there, right? And when I started my career, someone would say, what do you do? And I'd say, I'm an executive coach. And they'd be like, huh. And that was that. And my career was going okay. And then when I got clear that I needed to be really specific about what my purpose was as an executive coach, and I started to say, I work with women who are building ventures and growing them and will not compromise themselves because they're committed to their own well-being. Well, I started to distinguish myself so that my clients knew who they were working with. Now, it is not our client's job to distinguish between the people they're working with, right? It's our job to do it for them. So I needed to tell my clients, look, if you want to work with someone who wants to work with women, who are building or growing their ventures, and who has a really high standard for taking great care of yourself and believes you can while you're going big, then you should work with me, right? Because that's my purpose. Is that your purpose? Then let's do this. So figuring out what your purpose is will help you distinguish yourself and attract your clients in. And by the way, when I said I'm an executive coach, I felt kind of excited about it. When I say I support women to go big and stay sane, I feel lit up, right? So being clear about your passion and purpose, it also lights you up, which also attracts your client in. So these are the reasons that it's so important to create your purpose statement. Now, it's not super easy to do, although it doesn't take that much time. So I'm going to link in my description below a link to my website where I've got a 2-pager that you can go through and just fill out. It's a PDF. You can download it. It's free. And you can fill out your life purpose. It walks you through 4 simple questions. And I'd say in about 10 minutes, you'll have your own life purpose. Okay. Good luck, my friends. Go rock it.